must apologize in advance. I'm a little under the weather this past weekend. I got in school. Break was going to start, and I ended up leading several students on an urban plunge towards Skid Row. And so some of the hazards of being in that environment, as well as an irregular diet over the weekend, has led me to the condition I'm in now. So do not be surprised if periodically I turn the gavel over to Vice President Eccleston. Now, before we move on, I'm going to read a statement I prepared because very many of you have asked me questions over the weekend via email, via phone call, and I want to make it clear I am exercising my prerogative as president. None of my colleagues are to be held to blame for this. This was only me. Because I think you have a right to know, so without violating the law or closed session or confidentiality, I'm going to tell you where we are. Last October, the governing board voted to approve a contract, and this is a little difficult for me, so please bear with me. Last October, the governing board voted to approve a contract with the COSCA group for the purpose of finding a superintendent for the San Gabriel Unified School District. On December 7th, the governing board changed in membership and leadership. This board has been committed to transparency and a collaborative partnership with the community to deal with issues confronting our students. This board, in the last 6 months, has passed a facilities usage policy for the benefit of San Gabriel's youth, helped to submit with our counselors a grant proposal to hire counselors at all of our elementary schools, reincorporated opportunities for students to enter the trades after high school led by Vice President Eccleston and Board Clerk Hu, begun a debate on the reopening of the Family Resource Center, and most recently, after much debate, approved the creation of a community panel that would work with the board on the interviewing and hiring of a new superintendent. After the interviews concluded, the board, while taking into consideration the recommendations of the committee, reported out a 5-0 vote to offer Mr. Russel Lee Sung the position of permanent superintendent. After a visit by Vice President Eccleston and myself to Mr. Lee Sung's district, arranged by the COSCA group, our consultants, and in conjunction with Mr. Lee Sung and our own Mrs. Bracamonte, that board member Menchaca could not make due to transportation issues, board member Statler, I was told, could not make due to work commitments, and board clerk Hu could not make due to his work schedule, the district seemed to be on its way to acquiring a great superintendent. Last Thursday morning, the board received a communique from Mr. Lee Sung saying that he would withdraw. He gave no reason for such a move. After multiple attempts to reach him via phone over the weekend, Mr. Lee Sung would not return either board clerk Hu's phone calls nor my own. Vice President Eccleston and I traveled yesterday morning to Mr. Lee Sung's district in an attempt to ascertain the facts of what had happened. Mr. Lee Sung stated to Vice President Eccleston and me that he was nervous about this meeting but did graciously meet with us. He informed us that his decision was in the best interest of the district. He stated that he appreciated the support we had shown by arriving at his office that morning, but was vague about his rationale for withdrawing. When asked if a board member had spoken with him outside of the two of us, or if he had been contacted by anyone else, Mr. Lee Sung's constant refrain was, "You and your board need to come together and work out your own issues," implying that there was a division on the board and had been communicated to him. Suspiciously, he parroted the phrases coming to me and my colleagues about our current interim superintendent. When this process began and Dr. Don Brann received questions coming from some staff regarding whether or not he would consider the role of permanent superintendent, he stated that his job was to build a bridge from 2011 to the next superintendent. I thought this admirable, and Dr. Brann did not apply. Then the Thursday before our final interviews with the candidates, Dr. Brann and I attended the Roosevelt open house, and he asked for a word with me. Obliging his request, we sat down to discuss issues pertaining to the district. The conversation very quickly moved to his desire to take on the role of permanent superintendent as well as the role of assistant superintendent for business services, asking for the combined salary, compensation, and benefits totaling just under $300,000. He also stated at this meeting that Board Clerk Hu should be censured for leaking closed session information. Following the board's decision regarding Mr. Lee Sung, I entered the district office last week to pick up mail intended for me and go over the agenda for tonight. I entered Mrs. Bracamonte's office after a cabinet meeting had gotten out and the motion detector light had gone on, signaling that I was in the office. Wanting Dr. Brann to finish the business at hand, I waited patiently outside his office, to which the door was shut, and read the LA Times on my phone. While there, the conversation in his office was more than clearly audible. The substance of it was this. Dr. Brann spoke with Mrs. Bracamonte, who, it should be noted, barely spoke during the conversation. about why the board would not choose him for the role of permanent superintendent, citing his age. In his remarks, he stated that board clerk Hu was running around leaking information. Board members Menchaca and Statler were for him, while board clerk Hu and Vice President Eccleston were against him, and made a condescending remark about my age. He stated that this board just doesn't want a strong superintendent, and left me with the impression that without a shadow of a doubt he had been leaked confidential information. Now I have been lobbied by a few staff members over the last couple of days to vote in favor of Dr. Brann for the role of permanent superintendent. I am angry, I am frustrated, and I want answers so that we can get back to the very serious issue of educating our students, our primary mission as a district. Those are among the many reasons why I have called for the discussion item on tonight's agenda regarding the superintendent search. No action was taken in closed session, though closed session has not yet concluded. First request to address the governing board, Mary Ann Voltaggio.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity to talk with you. My name is Mary Ann Voltaggio. I teach first grade at Coolidge, and I've been in the district for 16 years. I have a few concerns and questions that I know I will not get an answer to tonight, but I would like to pose them. Yesterday I attended an in-service on bullying, anti-bullying. And it's board policy, from what I was told and given information on, that we have policies on anti-bullying. I guess my question is, does the board and other members receive the same training on anti-bullying? Because having been to board meetings and seen some of the behavior of some board members, it was pretty obvious that they are bullies. So does it start at the top, or does it just pertain to those of us with the children? And are we supposed to tell the children, do as I say, not as I do? My second question is, we seem to have gone this route once before with Dr. Parks. Hired the same organization, got Dr. Parks, had no direction in this district the whole time she was here. She brought in all her cronies, and things didn't get done. Now we hire the same organization to a quite high tune of money, from what I understand, to do the same thing. And we have another retired interim superintendent. Are we going to keep making the same mistake over and over again? When do we learn from our mistakes? And my last question is, why do we keep hiring retired people? It seems that this district needs some stability and somebody who's going to stick around. Okay? I don't understand why we keep doing the same thing over. You know, if you want to get a different result, you have to do something different. And we don't seem to be doing that. Thank you.
My name is Mark Winchell, and I'm reading a letter on behalf of my mom, Mary Winchell, who cannot be here tonight. Dear board members, thank you for listening to my letter. I have heard there is a problem with our new superintendent, Mr. Russel Lee Sung. Please give consideration to my words. I have not met Mr. Lee Sung, but I heard that he was excited about leading our district. If he has withdrawn from the position as our superintendent, I hope the board will be able to answer the following questions. First, did the COSCA group fail to thoroughly check Mr. Lee Sung's credentials and ability to serve in our district? Or did something change in our district that has caused Mr. Lee Sung to withdraw? If the search process is flawed, who will do the new search? Will the same brochure be used? If so, I noticed that one of the items my public forum group discussed is missing. Some of us expressed the hope that our new superintendent would not be a retired superintendent, but someone who would be able to give more years to our district and students. One of the members of the COSCA group even mentioned that he turned down his dream job because the offer came when he had already retired, and it would not be fair to that school district to have a superintendent for only a few years. I have appreciated the school board's recent efforts to be more transparent. I trust that you will handle the superintendent issue, if there is an issue, with integrity and transparency. I look forward to your answers to my questions. Thank you, Mayor Winchell.
Schrader and Orion.
I work in the business field, and I've hired plenty of recruiters to work on my behalf to bring people on board. What they always have offered me is not just one choice, but 1, 2, 3, 4 choices from among whom I can pick should one of those candidates not accept my offer. I would imagine that the taxpayers' money was spent on COSCA Group properly, and they came back with appropriate recommendations of multiple candidates who are fit for the role. It's too bad that Mr. Sung turned down our offer, but that is not the end of the process. There are other candidates thrown up by COSCA, hopefully, that we can contact and offer the job to. But Dr. Brann has done an admirable job building the bridge, and his strength is in that area, and we shouldn't be selfish and deny another school district his services to be the same bridge that he's very capable of doing. Thank you.